This is a day we've been waiting for. We're gonna pour concrete into that giant styrofoam cooler. All right, it is the morning of the first pour, and they did a lot of finish up work yesterday. I'm gonna go through some of those things, and I gotta do it quickly because I've got a large concrete distributor truck coming down the driveway. I don't know if that's what you call it, but that's what I call it. It's the one that has the big hose. Okay, so they dropped a vertical rebar into the Fox block all the way around so that when they do this pour, the second pour, once they build the second floor, will tie into this concrete. They've got rebar sticking through the Fox block there. For the roof of the logger, remember that is underground. If you look deep down in there, that rebar goes down and joins up with that other rebar coming out of the footer, and they're kept together by this small little chunk of PVC, round PVC, so that they don't float apart when the concrete is poured. Interesting thing they did all around is it's real hard to see, but there's actually clear plastic tape over the top of all these ridges. Remember, these are like Lego blocks, and so, boy, you can't see that tape, can you? I can see it, but these are like Lego blocks, and so they will actually get concrete in them, and it's really hard for them to get that concrete out of those ridges in order to stack the second level. So what they do is they just take packing tape and they run it over those ridges so that they don't get concrete in them, and then they just peel it off and they have a nice clean surface to build the second floor. You can see all the sheeting on the outside to protect blowouts on seams and on door frames, window frames. Here's that big old truck right now. He is a monster. All around the top here, these metal brackets here, those go through the Fox block, and they have kind of holes on the back that tie them into the concrete, and those are for the floor joists for the second floor. So they got those all in yesterday. The other thing they did is they used these this jack screw system that I showed you before to straighten out all these walls. They strung each wall and they made sure it was perfectly straight, perfectly plumb, and they did the same thing with the outside wall there. This is back in the utility room. This is the 2-inch PVC that goes through the wall for the water line coming from the cisterns. Put that right through the concrete so it's set in place and ready to go. I talked to the builder about this, what looks like expanding foam, and generally he said that's what it is. It has a couple purposes. First, it's so that wall does not move on the concrete, on the footer I should say. The other purpose is on the bottom of these Fox blocks, as you know, there's those little ridges, and it prevents those from crushing down, because you don't want this wall to settle at all, and you don't want it to float. Here we are in the back. They finished the Wallapini wall, or the greenhouse wall, and this is a door, and you can see that they just measure out the rough opening 38 inches by putting, looks like 2x10s in there, and they just screw them in place so it holds the concrete back. Another thing I want to show you is we realized that this wall over here was a little bit low on the end, so we went ahead, because we want the dirt to flow naturally downhill towards the pond, and we had quite a bit of drop here, so we went ahead and put a 2-foot section on there and blocked off, so it's going to be a step down there. I like the system they have here on these forms. You see they can lock in a nice straight 2x4 to make that wall straight, and they can jack it in and out on the inside to make it straight. So they spent some time yesterday to make sure they had a perfectly straight wall. Getting busy now. We have the concrete finisher I had asked the builder when they were pouring the concrete, I actually asked the concrete guy, is this standard concrete or is there something different about it? This is actually 3/8 limestone chip, which is a smaller aggregate than you would have on driveways and footers and whatnot, but it's generally the same concrete, only a smaller chip.
All right, let's describe this process a little bit. Concrete truck pulls up in front of this beast, and the concrete goes through that truck, through the boom, and into the hose. And then the hose is controlled by a little remote control box. And now he's coming around. You see the controller that is in his hand right there. Obviously, the importance of that tape on top of the ridges is clear now as he spills concrete down the wall. Vibrator only goes down about 5 or 6 feet. You notice how he went through that corner from one side to the other, and he did not put concrete in the corner. Again, he lets it flow into there to reduce the pressure directly from that corner.
Well, the first pour is done. Just going to give you an idea. They've poured up to, I guess that's roughly 6 inches below the top. And one exception is over here. This is a doorway to the upstairs. So they had to do this in 2 places. This is a door on this side, and then there's a door on the other side. But as you can see, they used that tape, and they took that tape off, and it basically took care of all this excess concrete that was stuck in the grooves. So now they got a nice clean surface to put the Fox block on. And then these rebar here will tie in the second floor pour with the first floor. And so everything works together. Well, we had a great pour. We had one issue, and that was completely my fault. I had asked for an additional, I guess I'd say bulkhead here, as a backdrop for the clamshell doors that are up front. It's not part of the structural wall or anything. It's just a way to bring that wall up so that I could have a good seal between the door that goes over the stairwell. Well, when I did that, it was kind of an afterthought. We did some bracing on the inside, but as you can see, there's a slight bit of separation there because when we poured the concrete, it kind of pushed that wall out a little bit. Luckily, like I said, it's not really a structural wall. It's just the top of the door frame going down to the root cellar, so it's not a serious issue. Well, it's about 3 days after the pour. We were very lucky on the day of the pour. It was about 60 degrees and sunny, and we had some warm weather for the next 24, almost 48 hours after that. And then we had a winter storm come in, the temperatures dropped and froze up, but one thing is this styrofoam really insulates the concrete, so even if it had turned colder earlier, it would have been nice and encased in the styrofoam to keep it somewhat warm as it cures. But I think we got a good cure out of this one, although right now we're kind of holding off on things because we got a lot of ice and snow here, but temperatures aren't too bad. We should be getting up to about 40 tomorrow, so we'll get back to work. Well, thanks again for watching. We've got to do the next step. We got to get that floor on, and we got to get a concrete floor in the basement. If you've subscribed, thank you very much. We love your comments. If you haven't, join us in our journey, and we'll see you next week.